Okay, I started recording this meeting. Let's start discussing about easy and interesting tool called a configuration management tool called SolStack. Okay, before going to discuss about the SolStack, let's make this course interactive. So today I'm going to start with the basic only. So let's start with what is a configuration management tool first before starting for the day. Can you guys just give me a explanation about, so let's consider this as an interview question. So sitting before an interviewer and is asking a question called what is a configuration management tool. So is there any idea from your side what will be a configuration management tool? You can just share. Let's be interactive, no problem. Any simple answer also is fine. Because the next thing is, the next phase is you're gonna work in real time is configuration management only. Okay, configuration detail about the server. Dinesh, you can just speak out also, no issue, so that others can also
So it's
have
something. It's something like Ansible, which is like kind of a deployer, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, Dinesh. So this is the thing. Okay, good. You had a clear explanation in your mind, but still, for an interview perspective, let's have a brief answer. What is it is? So many people, even if I'm taking the interview or if I'm going for some other interviews, when I ask them what is a configuration management tool, not only for configuration management tool, for any other, what is a monitoring tool or what is a integration tool. So their answer is only the examples. Means like if I ask what is a configuration management tool, they say Chef, Puppet, Ansible or SolStack or Terraform, any kinds of these names. So those are just an examples.
I mean, doing something automatically. I mean, like configuring something or making some setting in the master server, which will do the corresponding action in the slave servers or something like that. Making things automated, I believe.
Super. Yeah, that's a really nice answer. Automation is the main perspective. Okay, infra as a code, infrastructure as a code, and automation as the main perspective. That's why we go for any of the DevOps tools. It can be Jenkins, it can be a Git, it can be a Splunk, it can be AppDynamics, it can be Terraform, or it can be Ansible, SolStack. Anything we go, automation is the only thing we go, our only perspective. Automate everything, everything as a code is the keynote. So using configuration management tool, what is the automation we are making? Okay, and why we are using configuration management tool and what level of automation we are making. So see here, gave a simple definition. You can also use this definition. A configuration management tool does two things. It can improve organization change impact analysis level is the first point. What is the change impact analysis level is? Let me give a simple example before elaborating this. See, earlier when I had 100 servers, I will not definitely have 5 servers or 10 servers, 20 servers in my organization. I'll have more than 100 servers in my organization. Each server does each task. Okay. So here, if I want to just create a simple task, do a simple task like creating a user in a Linux machine. Let's take a Linux machine. I need to create a user. So the command is user add space username is to create a user in Linux machine. So earlier when DevOps tool came into the picture, when I need to create a user, I need to manually log into 100 machines and run the command called user add space username. For example, user add space greens, it will create the user. So for one server, it will take me 1 minute means for 100 servers, it will take me 100 minutes. And the next possible error here is when I'm manually doing something in 40 servers or 50 servers, I can do that correctly. But in 50% server or 55 server, when I'm typing something user add space username as green, I can leave a E or I can leave a N. So there can be manual error possible. But when something is scripted, okay, where something is scripted and something is pushed into servers, machine doesn't take any partiality of the servers. So there is no chance of error. So that is change impact and changes. The changes which you do in your servers in a day-to-day basis. Because when you build your server, when you deploy your application, the thing is not done. Day-to-day, you will keep on updating something, some configuration files or deploying a new code. So this is the thing day-to-day will be doing. So those are known as changes in real time, which will be doing in a maintenance window time. So there will be a downtime for your application. In that downtime, you will be implementing your code. So day to day, when you're updating something in your server, there is a chance of doing a mistake when you do manually. So what in DevOps industry they say is code something, whatever you want to do, code something and just push that code to your servers. So there will be a less change impact. So the change impact will be less. And the next more important point is improve service delivery time. What is this improve service delivery time is? See, earlier when I told in one server 1 minute means 100 servers, it will take me 100 minutes. But when I use this DevOps tools, what will happen is in 1 minute, 100 servers, the task will get completed. How means the same example as Dinesh earlier told. Here, what we are going to do is a master slave model, which means that 100, let's take the same example of 100 EC2 servers. In that 100 EC2 servers, I'll have my first EC2 machine as a master. I'll have what? My first EC2 machine as my master and the remaining machines as my slave machines. So what I'm going to do is from this first EC2 machine, I'm going to simply command all the remaining slave machine in my industry. I'm going to simply push my script to all the remaining slave machine in my industry. So things get automated over here. And service delivery time. Earlier, which it took 100 minutes, now it is the same task is completed in 1 minute. So these are the two important points you can use as a definition in the interview perspective too. When someone asks you what is a configuration management tool, the first is it will improve the organization change impact analysis level because you are coding everything or scripting everything. Okay, and the next is improve service delivery time. Why? Because you're using something called as master slave model. From the master, you're pushing the script simultaneously, parallelly to all the machines in your industry. So it will not go in a serial execution. Parallel execution will be done. So things get done faster. After you have this definition told to them, you can just tell your examples, whatever you have worked. It can be a Chef, it can be Ansible, it can be a SaltStack, whatever tool you are comfortable with, you can say as the tool as an example, because at the end of the day, all the tools will work with the same mechanism. Only thing is each tool is a different vendor, different company's tool, but all the tools are again known as configuration management tool. So you need to understand what is the tool you are going to work, why you are going to work. Raise your hands if you do not understand what is a configuration management tool now. You have an idea now what is a configuration management, why you are choosing configuration management now? Guys? Okay. Let's raise your voice also, no issues. It's not going to be a polite thing. Okay?
Yes.
So
Yeah, sir.
we'll make sure it's more interactive. Huh?
Sure.
The next thing we need to understand is, see, this SaltStack came in the year 2011. Do you know when Ansible came or when Chef came? Anyone? Okay, so Chef came in the year 2005. Guys, after you are finished answering, just mute out so that it's. So Ansible came in the year 2009, and Chef came in the year 2005, and SaltStack came in the year 2011. If you see here, Chef is the first guy who came into the industry, and he is also a configuration management tool, which came in the year 2005. Later, Ansible came in 2009. Later, SaltStack came in 2011. Now, here is when someone has introduced something already, which I said, all of these are configuration management tool, which will does the same task, same work again. When someone has introduced the same task again, when someone is newly coming to, suppose if you are introducing a configuration management tool tomorrow, if already there is an existing configuration management tool does the same task, people will not adapt to that, the new tool, because they are already comfortable with the existing tool. So there should be definitely some improvement in the eras. So compared to Chef, in Ansible, there should be some improvement. Compared to SaltStack, in Ansible, the SaltStack should have some improvements. So that's why people should adapt. So the next thing I'm going to tell is what is that improvement? Because at the end of the day, all the tools are configuration management tool, which is an infra as a code, is just my automation. But what is the improvement? So if you take Chef, in Chef, what was the model is? The model was not master slave model. The model was from the master, you will not be able to push anything to your child. What you need to do is, from the child, you need to get data from the master. So if a child needs to execute a script, you need to manually log into all the child again. For example, in the EC2 server 41 or EC2 server 100, I need to execute or complete any task. I cannot push my task from a master directly to the 41st server or the 100th server. I need to log in manually to the 41st server or 100th server and take my script from the master server. I need to pull the script from the master. Okay, this is what Chef has worked with. I need to manually log into the server and I need to take my script from my master machine. Later, when Ansible came into the picture, it worked with a master slave mechanism, which means that there is no need to log into the child server. I can manually push anything from my master to the child. You see some advancement when compared to Chef with Ansible? You guys see any advancement?
Shravan, could you please repeat again?
Okay.
Chef and
Sure. In Chef, what I need to do is, if I need to execute anything in my server 2 or server 3 or server 4, I need to manually log into all these servers and pull the script from the master. I cannot push the script directly from my master machine to the child machine. I need to pull the script from my child machine from the master. I need to log into the child, and from the child, I need to pull the script. This is how Chef worked. I need to manually log into all the machine. I need to pull the script from the master. Okay. But in Ansible, I can simply log into my first EC2 server, my master machine, and simply push to the child machines. Understood now?
yeah, fine, sure.
Okay. So you see the major advancement, right? There is no pulling over here. You're simply pushing a script from the master when compared to Chef and Ansible. Now, when come to SaltStack also will do the same activity. He will simply push the script from the master to the child machine, whatever machines you have. But what are the advantages over this? The next thing we are going to discuss about those advantages only. Okay. So in configuration management tool industry, there are two types of installation available: agent based and agentless. If someone has gone through Ansible already, can you just answer me my question? What type of installation you did in Ansible, whether it was agent based or agentless?
Agentless.
Sorry?
Agentless.
Oh yeah, correct. So it was an agentless installation, which you done in Ansible, where you don't have any physical agent running in your child machine. Here, SaltStack, he supports both agent based and agentless. I will also help you guys to just compare with Ansible. So if anyone has completed Ansible, it will be more easy for you. If not, the next class when you're going to learn Ansible, you'll be more comfortable on that, because both work with the same mechanism known as master slave mechanism, which means from the master, you will simply push a script to your child machine. Suppose you have 100 machines, all the 100 machines you are going to control with a single EC2 master. Okay, so the same mechanism, but the installation will vary. In Ansible, you use something called as agentless mechanism. In SaltStack, I can use agentless mechanism also. Also, it will also support an additional mechanism called agent-based too. So he supports an additional mechanism called agent-based. If you want agent-based, you can pick agent-based. If not, you can go with agentless also. So what is this agent-based and agentless? The next thing we are going to see that only. So in agentless is nothing but you're gonna push something. As I told, right, from my master, I'm gonna push my script to my child machine, my EC2 child machine, EC2 3 or EC2 100 machine. I'm gonna simply push a script. So Ansible will work with the mechanism of push mechanism from master. Suppose in my all machines, I need to install a package called Jitter. So I log into my master machine and push that script to my remaining child machine. This is a push mechanism, which will work with Ansible. SaltStack will also support this push mechanism. He additionally supports something known as pull mechanism too. Apart from this push mechanism, there is something called as pull mechanism also supported in SaltStack. What is this pull mechanism is? Suppose you want any static information about your child machine. Suppose in my EC2 server 2, I need the OS. What is the OS it is running? or what is the network configuration, or what are the packages installed, or any information, static information about your child machine, if you want to retrieve that, that is known as pulling. Okay, this pulling is possible in SaltStack. So you can do push from master. If you want to execute anything in your child machine, you can push that script. That is possible in SaltStack, which was already possible in Ansible. Additionally, it supports something called as pull mechanism. Pull mechanism means if I want to retrieve any static information about my child machine, I can retrieve that. From master, I can ask my child, hey, what is the tell me these details about you. So I will give the details. That is known as pulling. So this pulling is additionally possible. When you use agent-based mechanism, which is an additional mechanism available in SaltStack, you can do both push and pull. If you use agentless mechanism, which was already existing in Ansible, which does the push operation, you can also use the same agentless here, but you can do only the push operation. You will not be able to do the pull operation. Understood the difference between agent-based and agentless? Or please do let me know if I want to repeat this again, or if you guys are confused in any specific thing. What is an agent-based or agent?
Shravan, please repeat.
Okay, I'll just give a simple thing again. So
Okay.
Ansible supports only agentless, which means push operation. From master, you can push a script to your child machine. When coming to SaltStack, he supports the agentless. From master, you can push a script to your child machine. Additionally, he supports something called as agent-based mechanism too. When I go for this agent-based mechanism, I can push my script from my master to the child. Additionally, I can also get the child information from the master. Any static information about the child, I can retrieve from master. That is supported in agent-based, which is only supported in SaltStack. Okay, I will show you how to do the agent-based installation today in our detailed course. Okay, understood now?
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Basically, agentless
Yeah.
means we don't have to install Salt or Ansible in that server, right?
Good, that's a good catch. We don't need to have a physical agent running in your child machine. You will not be having in all the 100 machines. There is no need to have a physical agent running. If you go for agent, the name itself implies. Okay, as the name itself implies, agentless. There is no agent running in my child machine. If you go for agent based, you will have to install a physical agent in your child machine. There will be a physical agent running. No, it cannot pull any dynamic information. It can pull only static information like your OS information or packages install, all these kinds of things. Okay, for that you have separate commands. Those are known as grain commands you have in SaltStack. Grains, Grains, grain commands. So using that grain command from your master, you will do that pulling. I will teach you that grain commands too. Okay. And what does industry say is why we need to go for agent based. Another reason or main reason is more performance oriented. So if you take in my architecture also, for some applications they will go for agent based, and for some applications they will go for agentless. So when you have agent based, what they think is they have more control of their missions. If you see in real time, there will be some servers which will be present in a demilitarized zone. That means in a secured zone. So those kinds of servers, you will not have more control when you go for agentless. So people would prefer agent-based kinds of installation, because let's compare an example of wired headset and Bluetooth headset. Bluetooth is the latest technology when compared to wired headset. But if you see performance-wise in multiple conditions or in multiple places, wired headset will always provide the best performance because it's as a physical agent. But wireless is it can be advanced technology, but you can have some disadvantages in some point of time, right? So people always trust when there is a physical agent, a control is running in the destination machine, they will have more control over that. So that's why this guy wanted both agent based and agentless to get introduced. Okay, since you see agentless already in Ansible, I'll tell you how to go with agent based now. Okay, I don't think why it's private. Okay guys, this is a brief description about first what is a configuration manager. Just make yourself clear because the next thing whatever you're going to do is installation or showing you the commands, each and every command. As you see, the DevOps tools also, they when the era changes from Chef, they adapted to Ansible. From Ansible, they're going to the next tool. So tomorrow there can be some other tool coming to industry. So instead of learning into the tools perspective, understand what the tool does, how the tool internally works first. So when you understand this, tomorrow if some other tools also come, it will be easy for you to adapt. So that's why when I'm telling anything or teaching anything, even if I'm learning anything, I'll just try to understand the mechanism, not with the tool perspective, the mechanism perspective, because tomorrow if something else is coming to the industry, I can easily adapt to that. If you learn with the mechanism perspective, if you go with the tools perspective, you'll be adapted to that commands. So it will not be more and much comfortable. So understand how it's working, what are the functionalities, what are the important things. Okay. For example, the next question here will be, some would have already worked with Ansible, where in the master slave mechanism, right? So from the master server is controlling your child server. Can you just tell me how it is making the control in, I'm asking in Ansible. So some people who are already worked in Ansible, right? So from Ansible, from master, you control your slave machine using agentless mechanism. You're clear on that. I'm telling my EC2 1 is controlling my EC2 2 or EC2 3, EC2 4 server. It is pushing some script. How it is controlling? Yeah, that's a configuration mechanism, master slave mechanism. But what is the access mechanism or port? I can simply say port. So if you see in Ansible, you enable something called as SSH22 port number. If that SSH22 port number is enabled only, you will be able to control from your master to slave. If that port is disabled, you will not be able to make a control. Okay, this is in agentless. So if I go in SaltStack, if I use agentless mechanism, the port is again same. It is SSH22. But if I go for agent-based mechanism, now the port is different. What is the port is 4505 and 4506. These are the ports. It will get enabled in your master machine. Why again 2 ports are? Can you make any guess why 2 ports in agent-based mechanism? Because in agent-based, I told I can do 2 things. What are the 2 things?
Push and pull.
Perfect. So push and pull. So that's why now 2 ports. 4505 is for the push operation and 4506 is for the pull operation from your master. Okay. So now see if something goes down. So if I'm not able to pull anything, so what will be a troubleshooting one now? So from my master, if I'm trying to pull the information about my child, so I'm not able to pull that. So if you're going to do a troubleshooting, so what will the first thing you'll check now?
The port number it's opened or not.
Perfect. That's it. So you need to check in your master machine, do a netstart command and just check whether the port is open. If the port is not open, that's the reason why you are not able to pull that. Okay. So this is the thing. Just understand how it internally works. You'll now able to start troubleshooting by yourself. Okay. So this 4505 and 4506 are master port numbers. Why I'm telling these are master port number is here only master will do the push or master will only do the pull. Child is just a dummy server. Child will simply listen to my master. That's it. Child will not do any execution, or one child will not command to other child, or child will not command to master. Child is a one who simply listens from a master. If master is commanding him, he will execute that. If the master has any information, he will take that. That's it. Okay. So master is the core and primary thing. Now, if you have really understood my architecture or this mechanism, master slave mechanism, there should be a major doubt coming to you or to the industry from the industry perspective. Now just consider each one of you from a different industry. Okay, you own a different company. I propose this mechanism to you, or else you propose this mechanism to your clients. Client will ask this. The next question will be the more important question. Can you guess that? I can also say as a major disadvantage. Okay, I will stress out a point again. Let me check whether you can catch that. I'm telling that this is a master slave mechanism or configuration management tool I use in my industry to control all my missions, because earlier my task was manual. I need to, if there were 10,000 missions, I need to log into 10,000 missions and I need to execute that script. Manually, I need to log in. But when this configuration management tool came into the picture, I can simply log into my master. From my master, I can push my script to all the 10,000 missions. There is no need to log in. Can master pull into multiple missions? Yeah, at a time I can pull to a single server, or I can pull from a group of server. It's again my condition. Yeah, simultaneously it's possible. Yeah, in an existing environment, I can add, if I'm newly building, suppose tomorrow my business is expanding, I can add my new servers too. That is also possible. See, here, what if the master fails? Yeah, what if the master mission goes down? Now you understand, see, I'm just configuring 10,000 missions in my industry with my master. What if my master mission goes down? Now, if I need to install a package in 10,000 mission in my organization, I don't have any master. I need to now manually log into all the 10,000 missions and again install the package. Since because my master has went down. True or not? True, right? This is the next question your clients will ask you, right? So you say a master slave mechanism, whereas from a single master, you're pushing a script to your child. I control all my 10,000 missions. So you say service delivery time getting increased, or you have a faster communication. You say change impact is reducing. You explain me all this thing. But tomorrow I have an important prod release. Tomorrow is a great Indian sale. For Amazon, I have great Indian sale. Today I need to push up fix pack. I need to push a fix pack to my servers, but my master has gone down. So that's a major disadvantage, right? So SaltStack, what he does is he has a mechanism called multi-master configuration. Multi-master configuration is supported in SaltStack. Okay, using this multi-master configuration, what I can do is the same example. If I have 100 EC2 servers, earlier I had my EC2 one as master and remaining 99 mission as my slave. Now what I can do is EC2 one as a master and EC2 as the second master. I can control all the 98 missions from both the masters. Okay, so if my first master goes down also, no issues. I can still control using the second master. I can have multiple master configured with all my slave missions or all my child missions. So why I'm using this mechanism is, so if one master goes down also, I can control using the second master. Okay, but the rule is only one master can be active at a time, which means if EC2 is already active and controlling the remaining mission in my industry, I cannot control it using from the EC2. Only when the first master goes down, I can control using this from the second master. Understood? Clear, guys? So this is how you need to just make sure and get yourself elaborated and keep your mind clear. Just understand the architecture and the technologies. Just think about in a client perspective. Suppose you are going to speak this tool about your tool to your client. What is the question? The next question. See, from my experience, what I will tell is the next question from my client will be with the security. True or not? When you speak anything, when you propose anything, clients would be really worried about. First thing is security. Even let's take the Amazon as a simple example. When Amazon wanted to come into the industry, so the first question the clients had was, how secure would your cloud account will be? They didn't ask what is your servers or what will be availability or what is the technology you are providing. The first question they raised was security. So if I'm going to use your services, will my application be secured? The same way, if I'm going to use SaltStack, will my application be secured? So that is the next question your clients will ask. You can say, yes, it is 100% true. It will be secured. But in a simple words, if I simply say yes, they will not accept. You need to give some justification for them. What is my justification is, here the master slave, the connectivity is happening using a mechanism called 0MQ. And this 0MQ is the most high performance and secured mechanism, which is making the master slave connectivity. Some people who are already using this 0MQ technology is NASA, Samsung, EA, Digi Electronics. It's not on mute. Guys, who's not on mute, please make yourself as mute. Okay, so let's not disturb others. Okay, guys, so to make it more secure, here we use a mechanism called 0MQ. This 0MQ makes it more secure, which means in the background it works with some SSH keys, public and private keys. I'm not going to jump more into that keys because it will confuse more and more on you, and that is not related to DevOps too also. Okay, but to have that question answered, you can just answer them. It uses a mechanism called 0MQ, which satisfies security. So you have security satisfied, and you have your configuration management tool also satisfied, because it supports both agent based and agentless. You can do both push and pull operation. It's more secure. If you lose your master, you can control it from the second master too. Now everything is happening. Everything is possible over here. Now your clients will be satisfied over here or not. Even if you are just adapting, you have your own company, or satisfied with this tool, or you do have any other disadvantage over here. You can just speak out to, no issues. Or just let me know at any point, this is the thing I didn't understand, or else if this thing is available, it will be a more useful one. Anything like that you have?
It's fair.
Okay, so the first thing, make yourself the architecture clear and the mechanism clear. I'll show you the demos. Okay, now we'll start with the demo, which means what I'll do is I'll just start creating a EC2 server. So I'll create a master EC2 machine and I'll create my child EC2 machine. So first I'll create a EC2 master and I'll do master installation. Next I'll create child machine and I'll do child installation on that. Okay. Later what I'll do is I'll connect this child machine to my master. So as I told, we have two types of mechanism of installation. One is agent-based installation and one is agentless installation. Okay. So if you use agentless installation, what you would do is you will take your child machine IP and add it in your master. True, right? In Ansible, you did the same, right? You took the child machine IPs and you added that in etc host file of your master. True or not?
Yes.
So that is what you did in agentless mechanism. Agent based is just vice versa. You need to take your master machine IP and add it in your child machine. That's it. Just vice versa. Very simple. Take the master machine post name IP and add that IP in your child machine. If you do so, it will be as an agent based mechanism. I repeat it again. If you take your child machine IP and add it to your master, that is known as agentless mechanism installation. Vice versa, if you take the master machine IP and add it in all the child machine, here you definitely need to add it in all the child machine, and it is only a one-time activity, okay, to have more control. If you do so, that replicates agent-based installation, because there will be a physical agent running in your child machine. Okay, so now for today's session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a EC2 one machine, which is going to be a master machine, and I'm going to do a master installation. And I'm going to create my EC2 2 machine. There I'm going to do my child installation. And step number 3, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my child machine IP in my master. Sorry, I'm going to add my master machine IP in my child, because I'm going to do installation called agent based installation. Okay. So step 1, install salt master EC2 1. Step 2, install salt child in EC2 2. After that, step 3, take the master IP and add it in the child. If I do so, what is the installation mechanism? What I take the master IP and add it in the child.
Agent based.
Perfect. So it is known as agent based. Okay. And finally, step 4. Step 4 is I accept or authenticate. I accept or authenticate the child from my master. Once you are done with this step, the EC2 mission, if you want to do any task, if you want to just push a script, pull a activity, install a configuration, create a file, start a service, stop a service, you can do anything from your master. You can simply close your child and go. Any activity, you can control it from your master. Okay.
Can you repeat fourth step?
Okay. Fourth step is, see, I added my master IP in my child server, right? Okay. So now from master, I need to accept him. I need to tell he is my secured host. He is my secured server. Why this step was added is, see, if someone, now you all guys, you 53 members in my chat knows my master IP. Once I create my server, since because you know my host name of my master, if you can listen anything from my master, whatever he's speaking, it's not a secure mechanism again. So that's why he added a fourth step. He master needs to authenticate who is his child. Until master is manually authenticating, okay, he can be my child. No, he cannot be my child. Like that, he is manually authenticating. Until this step is done, he can server cannot be a child of a master. Understood?
Yes, understood.
Okay. And the next thing is Salt is supported in cross-platform. You can also install in Ubuntu. You can also Linux in Red Hat machine, Amazon Linux machine, anything you can also you can do install. The only thing, as same as Ansible, a master machine cannot be as a Windows machine. So a master machine can be as a Linux or a Ubuntu machine, anything, but in a Windows machine cannot definitely be as a master. Windows can be only as a slave. Okay, this is the last rule. And the most important is Ansible and SaltStack both work with parallel mechanism, not serial, which means all the 100 machines, the job can be done simultaneously. It will not wait until my first machine does the work. The second machine will not wait. All the mission, the task will get done parallelly. So parallel execution is the most important step. Okay.
Shravan, I cannot understand how using 0MQ is providing security. Can you
Sorry, a
elaborate on
little
that?
more louder, please.
I cannot understand how using 0MQ is providing security. Can you elaborate on that?
Okay. So if you are very much sure about some MQ mechanisms like IBM MQ, Rabbit MQ, different kinds of message queuing mechanism, this actually the communication from your servers happens with the bus mechanism. 0MQ is nothing but as a event bus mechanism. So in real time, there are many bus mechanism, and a bus mechanism is nothing but which allows different servers to communicate with each other. Here, there are different mechanisms like IBM MQ, Rabbit MQ, and 0MQ is a mechanism which provides high performance asynchronous, which means serial, not serial, parallel communication. So this 0MQ is the actual guy which makes a parallel communication. Okay, this internal 0MQ mechanism makes it highly secure. So you can study, I can share you more documented about 0MQ2 message queuing, which does this both push and pull mechanism. Where you can do a push, or you can also do the pull mechanism using a bus called 0MQ, which highly supports a high performance and asynchronous. Other thing is who is using, who are the most popular people using in real time. So these are the example: NASA, EA, Samsung, DG Electronic. And the 0MQ is nothing but an event bus mechanism, which allows two different components to communicate with each other. It's a message queuing, message library mechanism. So it's a different vendor product. So whatever you want, you can just take and just install that and use that. Okay. And you cannot change this mechanism. And while doing a master installation, there is no need to manually install any 0MQ or anything in your server. While running a master installation now, while the script is running in my server, you can see 0MQ is being installed internally. I'll show you when the line gets run. Okay. There is no manual installation. All things are simply packed in a zip file. You just need to run your zip file. If you do so, things get installed in the background. Yeah, my battery is full. Thanks for being very attentive. Okay, I'll just tell you how it's more secure. To also see this, you need to understand about something called as SSH keys. I will also show you where that SSH keys is available, which is means that some public and private key authentication. When I accept my child machine, there is some certificate getting exchanged between themselves. So this certificate exchange is done by the 0MQ, which makes this more secure. Okay, understood now?
Yeah,
Can we
thank
start?
you.
Okay, we'll start it. I'll show you in cross-platform to today. Today we are going to see very basic thing about how to set up this initial configuration about your master and slave. I'll show you in both Ubuntu machine, Red Hat machine, and if time applicable, also in Windows machine. I'll just show you, and also I'll share you the document of how to do the installation. And in my document, you have packages for all the machine. Suppose if you want to install in Amazon Linux machine, you can do. You can, if you want to install in Ubuntu machines, you can do. Even though if you want to install in Windows machine also, it is possible. I have packages for all the machines. You can install whatever machine you want. Okay. So I'm quickly creating two EC2 machines, and I hope all of you guys are clear of how to create a EC2. So I'm not gonna elaborate on that. So I'm just creating my EC2 machines. Okay, I'm deciding who should be my master. So I'm just deciding he's my master. Whatever mission you want, you can make them as a master. Since because I edited this name, it's not a master yet. The configuration setup I'm gonna do, or I'm gonna set up, decides who will be the master. So now I'm initially deciding he should be my master. So I'm just logging to my first EC2 machine. As I told, repeated, my step number 1 is I'm gonna do master installation. So I'm logging to my master machine and I'm gonna start doing my master installation, and it's very easy. Log into the machine. Log into your master machine. Guys, be very careful on these steps. This is the initial configuration step. If you make any mess up on the step, tomorrow if I'm going to teach you any advanced commands also, it will not work, because this is the step where I'm going to do a master and slave setup. Many people make some small granular mistake. I will tell you where they are making the mistake so you can avoid that. Okay. So for the first step, log into your first EC2 machine. Okay, your master machine. I just log into my master machine. Step number 1, just type host name and get the host name of that machine. So if you just ask me what is the IP, this is the private IP of this machine. This is not a public IP. This is a private IP of this machine. What you need to do is just add this private IP inside a file called etc host. Do this for your in your master itself. And if you ask me whether this is a mandatory step, no, this is definitely not a mandatory step. There is no need to add your master IP in this etc host file. But what is in the real-time cases, suppose if I'm making some 10 calls, in some 10 calls, 8 calls are getting successful, some 2 calls are getting failed if my IP is not present in this etc host file. So I had a P1. To fix that P1, what we did this, I added my IP in this etc host file. This is a network related file of servers. So if you have any IPs on the server, the first thing is it will make sure to listen to this etc host file. If the IP is already present, all the 10 to 10 calls were successful. So that's why I would suggest to add the master IP in the same server of etc host. Okay. So step number 1, take the host name of your master server and add that. This is nothing but your private IP. Add this IP in your etc host file. Okay, and this is definitely not a mandatory step. You can skip this step too if it's not needed. Okay. And since because you have done some host level changes, just reboot that machine once. You can simply give init space 6, which will reboot your machine. If you are not comfortable with this command, you can go under action, instance state, stop, and again start also, as you did earlier, a simple start and start. So when you give init 6, it will reboot the machine. Okay, etc host or etc resolve.conf. Okay, these are nothing but network level configuration file. For example, this will jump me out from SolveStack. Okay, don't get confused. See, in every architecture, the first thing would be a DNS, domain name. The next thing would be a load balancer. Load balancer will split your request to your servers. Now, when a user hits something called as www.google.com. For example, when a user types www.google.com, this is something called as DNS. When I type something called as DNS, that will internally go and hit a load balancer. LB. Your request will only go to a load balancer, not to your servers directly. Okay. Your load balancer, how it accurately splits to a server is, you need to add that LB DNS to your EC2 machines. Where will you add that LB DNS is in that etc host file only. So that's why your LB accurately knows where my request should get transferred. One second. See, since because you asked, I'll just give a 2 minutes definition, but we are skipping away from SolveStack, so just don't get confused. See, whenever I type a DNS, www.google.com, the request is going to a load balancer, not my EC2 servers directly. So users call. Suppose when you access HDFC Bank or Facebook Bank, you're a user and you're making a call to that server, which is running your application. The request is going to a load balancer, not to the servers directly. When the request is going to a load balancer, how the load balancer is currently fetching the data is, the LB DNS is added it in a file called etc host file. So that's why the request is getting transferred to the exact server. So what I need to do is, in my EC2 machine, I need to add the LB DNS in a file called etc host. So the etc host file will resolve your request. So whatever is not available in a etc host file, it is considered that the request is not coming to my machine. Okay. So this is a small description about etc host. You can also study. You can also dig in and have more information about what is etc host. It will definitely help you in an interview perspective. So step number 1, I logged into my master machine and typed host name and added that host name into a file called etc host file. After that, I rebooted the machine. Now I'm again relogging to my master machine. The same machine, I'm just again relogging. So I'll just keep the master as white color, so you have more clear. Okay. So here my master machine is Ubuntu machine. Sudo -2. Okay. Now you guys see. Now what I need to do is installation is very easy. I just need to copy the exact package and run that package. That's it. If you see in my installation document, for each version, the package will get different. Okay. Just make sure the package you are downloading is just supportable by that machine. For Ubuntu, you have separate package. For Amazon, you have separate package. For Red Hat machines, you have separate package. For Windows, you have a separate package. Just make sure you're just downloading the exact package. So you can also use this curl command to download that package. Curl is nothing but it will resolve to this URL, and this URL is nothing but SaltStack website URL. It is going and listening to this website and downloading the package inside this server. It is creating a file called install_salt.sh in my current path. So if you see in my current path now, I don't have any file called install_salt.sh. After I run this command, I'll get a file name called install_salt.sh, which will have all the installation configuration, which was downloaded from this URL. You can also use the curl command to download the package, or else you can go to manually to this website. You can manually go to the website, download the packages locally to your downloads. Use Windows CP to copy the package from your local to your server. You can also do that, but it is a long step. Clients should always expect a smart work. So also learn what is a curl. Curl or duplicate, both will get the content from your internet and directly push that to your servers. Okay. Curl, listen to this URL. -o is to create a file. And this name can be anything. You can also have your name also. If it's suppose Arjun or Rahim, any name, you can also have your name. The only thing is the extension. Linux machine or Ubuntu machine doesn't support .exe format. So you can download a package which is supportable by them. For example, they support .sh, which is a shell scripting file. For example, you can also download in .py. It's a Python file, or in a tar format, or in a zip format. Any format you want, you can download, which is supportable by that machine. Okay. Here I'm just downloading that in a .sh format, which is nothing but a shell scripting format. So run this curl command. See, when I run this curl command, are you able to see a file got created? So inside this file, I have the configuration to do the installation, which was copied from this URL. Okay. Now I need to run this sh file. That's it. If I run this sh file, my installation is done. Very simple. Sudo sh. Why sh is I'm running a shell scripting file. So that's why I'm telling sudo sh. And what is my file name? Install_salt.sh. So I need to run this file. So pass two parameters, -p and -m. Why two parameters is -p represents dependent pip packages. -m represents master. I told you, right? In this machine, I'm going to install master configuration. So that's why I'm giving -m. So if I give -m, he will do master configuration install in this server. If I do not give -m, he will install only child configuration on this server. Understood? Why -m? So -p is for dependent pip packages and -m is for master configuration. Okay. Okay. -p is nothing but dependent pip package. For example, for Salt, I have some dependencies. What is my first dependency is Python. I told, right, Salt or Ansible or anything is nothing but infra as a code. I need to script anything, and from my master, I need to pass that script to my child machine. Okay. To do that script, there should be some scripting language. So what is the scripting language supported in Ansible and SaltStack is? It's YAML. YAML is the scripting language you use. So to support YAML, you need Python in that machine. So when I give -m, if Python is not available in this machine, that Python will get installed. All dependencies for salt. For example, 0MQ is also dependency. So that dependencies will get installed when I give -m. So that's why -p represent dependent pip packages. All the dependencies will get installed, and -m represent master. So I simply used curl command to copy the sh file. After that, I'm just running that. Okay. I'm just running sudo sh install underscore salt.sh -p and -m. Just run it. That's it. Your installation will get done. Your salt master installation is done in this mission after you run that command. So now, if you really understood, just tell me how you can just verify whether master has been installed. Can you just make any guess? I need to just verify whether my master has been installed in this mission. I'll show you the architecture. Just tell me, by seeing this architecture, can you just tell me how I can make a guess? Anything which will prove that this is my master server, or no, this is not a master, this is a slave server. Perfect. That's obviously true. Port numbers. So in your master, you will have 4505 and 4506 running. Okay. If it's a slave server, you'll definitely do not have that port numbers running. We'll also cross check that. In my master, I'll do a netchat command and I'll check my ports. Same way in my child server also I'll do. See, so it's telling salt install. I'm doing a netstat command. Netstat is nothing but a command to check the background ports, active ports in this machine. Okay. Netstat hyphen. Now, are you guys able to see some port called 4505 and 4506 Python port numbers? You guys are able to see, right? In my master mission, something called as 4505 and 4506 when I do a netstat command. The same command when I use in my child mission, I'll definitely not see this port number because 4505 and 4506 are only your master port numbers. You should do your push and pull operation. That's it. Your step number 1 is done. What is my step number 1? Do master installation. Install salt master. To have a quick recap, what I did is I logged into my first EC2 mission. I typed something called as host name and added that host name into a file called etc host file. Okay. After I did this, I just rebooted this mission once. Once I rebooted the mission, I just relogged into this mission and I used this curl command to copy the installation package. So I used this curl command to copy the installation package, and once I ran this curl command, I got a file called install underscore salt.sh. I ran this installation file using sudo space sh space install underscore salt.sh space -p and -m. I ran this file, installation got completed. 3 simple steps will do the master installation. Okay. To just grep out the ports. So if you just see, if I do just the netstat command, it will just pull out all the ports which will be able to listening or connected in my mission. So netstat it's -anltp is only to grep out the network ports, TCP ports. Okay, TCP listen active ports. So when I do netstat -anltp, it will only listen or filter out the TCP ports. Are you able to see only the TCP ports are able to listen, are not listening all the ports. So only TCP ports. Guys, easy master installation or you got confused in any step? Why I'm again asking this is the initial configuration. You should be perfect in this configuration because if you are missing out anything over here, you cannot do the rest of the steps. Okay, good. So master configuration is done. Next, I need to do my child configuration. So as I told, I'm going to do agent based setup over here, not agentless, agent based setup. So now I'm logging to my child machine. Okay. So I have a differentiation between my master and child. Master will be in white color and child will be in black color. So this first child machine is also a Ubuntu machine. And child machine is very, very easy. There is no steps. Do not have to type host name and add it in etc host file. Nothing is needed. Just copy the curl command. Just copy the same URL curl hyphen, which is the step which you did in the master. Just copy this. Just copy the shell scripting file to do the installation. Okay. Once you have copied this file, just run this. That's it. Sudo sh install underscore sh hyphen p, because child also has some dependencies. Not hyphen m. Why not hyphen m? Or shall I give hyphen m?
No, you cannot
Because this will be your.
Then it will become a master.
Yeah, super. So if you want two masters to support multi-master, you can give again. I'll also tell you how to set up multi-master. I'll also clarify on that, but that we'll see in the advanced thing. Now simply run this. That's it. Sudo sh script hyphen p. Your installation will get done. Now just see, watch clearly what on all the things he's just installing. Okay. You can see what on all things he will unpack all the dependencies. For example, Python or 0MQ is needed. If you unpack 0MQ of all the dependencies or all the, are you able to see Python, he'll just unloading all the Python packages, because the one simple dependencies of him is Python. That's it. So it's just unpacking it. Once this is done, I can again give a netstart command and check whether my two active ports 4505 4506 are active and running. So it will confirm me whether this is a master machine or slave machine. So I can do netstat -anltp, or you can also use this command service salt master status service salt minion status. It will tell you the background active status. Okay. So if you see, if I run this in my master machine, service salt master status, it will tell you whether your master is actively up and running. Suppose if you want to stop your master, or if you want to restart your master, simply instead of the status, you can give restart. It will restart your master. If you want to stop this, just click stop. If you want to start, just give start. That's it. So salt install in your child. Do the netstat command. So I did the netstat. Are you able to see something called as 4505 or 4506 in your child? Sudo service salt minion status. And see here in salt stack, the child server they call as minion. Okay. This is the same master slave mechanism only, which you are sound Ansible, but the child he calls as minion in his terminology. Salt stack. Thomas Hatch is the guy who introduced this salt stack. Instead of a child, he kept the name as minions. That's it. I don't know how many people who watched a cartoon called Minions. So he was very fond about those minions. You know, right? The minions will the yellow, small yellow color guys. An interesting cartoon. So I don't know how many guys have seen this. So he was very fond of this. So instead of he kept this name Minion, because what is this guy should actually do is he will listen to the work and blindly do that work. Those guys will not object or not reject any work, right? So the same name he kept for this machine, minions, who will just blindly take the work from a master and do that activity. Okay, so that's why he kept the name as minions for this child machine. What is not that? No, Sandeep or Karthikeyan. Karthikeyan or Sandeep, can you just tell me what is not clear? You just ping know something.
Maybe that response was for any port is listening.
Sorry? Ah, okay. Okay, salt minion. See, your salt minion is actively running in this server. Not your master, only your minion, child is running in this mission, and you don't have any port call 4505 and 4506. My step number 2 is also done. My step number 1 is to install master, and my step number 2 is install child. Just see history. I'm just putting a history command. What I did is log into your second mission, just run this curl command and run that sh file using sudo sh install underscore saw.sh -p, which will finish your child installation. Okay. Step number 3, as I told, take the master IP and add it to the child. Okay. Before showing this, I'll show you a log path. So this is nothing but a log, var log salt is a path. Inside this path, you have a file name called minion. This file will have the log information about your child. If your child is failing on something, if your child has some errors, if you need to check that, you need to come into this path, var log salt. In this path, it has a file name called minion. This file will have the information about your minion related errors. Okay. So using tail command, what I'm doing is I'm tailing out the last 100 lines of this file, or else you can directly use a VA command to open this file also. You can use a VA command to open it in a visual editor mode, or use a tail command to just list out the last 100 lines of the file. Okay. If you do this file, you are seeing some error. Master host name not found. Retrieving in this for each 30 seconds, I'm getting an error. What is this error actually? Any guess?
We did
It's
not
not able to communicate to the master server.
Perfect, that's it. He's not able to communicate to the master because I didn't tell him who is the master yet. Okay, so that is the reason. The next thing is, if the master server is down, he will again throw out these errors and he will try to reconnect to the second master. If there is any second master is there, he will try connect to them. So for each 30 seconds, he will try to internally ping to your master. So to which port he will internally ping is to this 4505 port. So all your child missions for each 30 seconds will try to hit to this 4505 port. So if this port is not resolvable, he will stop listening to that master and he will start listening to your second master. To prove that, I told you this file. Okay. Now I'm going to a path called etc salt. Inside this path, you have a file name called minion. This is the one and single configuration file you need to remember. This is in your child mission. Okay. I told you in agent paste, I will add my master IP in my child mission, right? So this is inside etc salt. You have a file name called minion. In this configuration file, you need to tell him who is the master of him. So all this content are already available. You just need to uncomment that line. That's it. You do not have to type any new code or new commands or anything. Everything is already available. You just need to uncomment it. So here, if you see, he's asking set the location of the salt master. So your child is asking who is the master. So just take the host name of your master mission and add it over here. That's it. So just take the host name of your master mission and add it over here. And if you want, you can give a alias name too. Alias name is nothing but a nickname to call to this server. So for this minion mission, I am giving a nickname called as test dev. Okay. So I went into a file called, in my child mission, I went into a file called etc salt, and the file name is minion. Inside this file, I just edited my master. I just told him who is the master and I gave him a nickname. This is again not a mandatory step. If you want, you can just give it. Okay. I'm just doing a minion restart quickly to just make the configuration setup, and minion restart is not mandatory again. Just go to the master. So master installation done, child installation done. Step number 3 was take the master IP and add it in the child. I did the same, right? I took the master IP and added in my child in a path called etc salt, file name called minion. So in a child server, I did my step number 3. I went into a path called etc salt minion and I added my master IP over there. And last is my step number 4, authenticate your child. So to do that, go back to your master. Type a command called sudo salt key. If you type this, you will be able to see accepted, who is already listening to you. If you have rejected anyone, who if someone has made a new request to you, unaccepted. Are you able to see test dev? Who is this test dev now?
The master.
Child machine.
The child machine. Okay, right? Over here. So now, if I am not given this nickname over here, what would have happened is the host name, your child machine public private IP, you will be seeing over here. And this is again a tough task to remember. So that's why I gave a nickname. If I have not given that ID call and tested out, here in my master, I would have seen this 172.31.92.48 over here. Okay. So now my child machine is under unaccepted. Okay. So now my child machine is now under unaccepted key. I need to accept
just sorry to interrupt here. Someone mic is enabled. It's causing a trouble.
Yeah, guys. Someone's mic is enabled. Can you just thank you. I think it's clear now. Okay, so when I type sudo salt key, I'm able to see my child machine in my master and unaccepted keys. I need to accept him. Accepting is very simple. Same command, sudo salt key -a test dev, whom you want to accept. If you have not given the ID test dev value over there, you need to enter the host name like IP.102.30. What IP is your child machine IP? This you should enter over here. Okay. Now I need not have to enter the IP manually. Okay, I can simply enter test dev because I have a nickname for him. It's asking whether I need to accept him. Yes, accept him. Sudo sol key. Now you are able to see your test dev came from unaccepted to accepted keys. Are you able to see that? Now if I'm trying to command sudo salt test dev, I'm trying to command by test dev machine. I'm simply using a ping test.ping. It's just giving me a response called true. It's telling me your child machine is live. I'm able to install your child machine. For example, I'm giving test to QA. I don't have any child machine called test to QA federated with my master. He will definitely throw me an error. No matching minion found. But when I give test to dev, your child machine is active and running. Is alive. So that's why when I'm doing a ping, I'm getting a value called true. Okay. Guys, understood? Okay, don't make any issues in this configuration. It's very easy. I've anyway documented this and this session is also recorded. So I hope you will not make any mistakes on this, okay?
Hello, I have one question.
Yeah, sure.
The test dev is your salt minion, right?
Yeah, my child mission. Test dev is my child mission, salt minion mission. 1 second, guys. I'll just connecting with you. Okay. I'll also quickly show you in Amazon Mission too if you are guys interested. Okay. How to do this initial setup. Also log into my Windows machine, connect. Guys, this is how you do the setup. Just quickly tell me if you have any doubts in this initial setup, because this is the most important thing. If you are just making any mess up over there, the next commands will not work, because this is the initial configuration. Okay. Any doubts on this initial setup? Okay. So if you want a cross-platform installation, I'll also show you. Just have a question. You have installed also. From IE. From IE, you can do an installation in Windows machine. I'll show you in a Windows right now. Right now, I'm logging to my Windows machine, right? I can.
No, Shravan. No, Shravan. I'm asking. Look, like, if there any graphical representation of this one, like you install this. What is this? Like salt stack. So, is there any web-based interface we can see?
Yeah,
we can see.
We have that. Actually, that's a good question. Thing is, Salt also support GUI.
Okay.
But GUI is an enterprise version. You need to pay almost 15,000 to him to just get that.
Okay.
Only CLI is open source, which he has allowed us to practice. And if you ask me whether I need a GUI, GUI is simply a click button task. So that even a layman can do that opportunity. So clients would also not expecting that. Clients are really expecting people to work in the background, in the server's perspective, CLI. Okay. I'll just compare with the GUI. I'll just also share the screenshots of the doc. So Salt Linux machine. Today I'm not gonna punch you with more and more things, just with a simple configuration. So practice that and make this configuration setup available in your service. So as I said, in the notepad which I'm going to share you, you have packages for all the environments. You can just type this, get this URL and directly go to SaltStack website also if you want to see what are the packages he is supporting. See, if I go to the SaltStack website, he supports Debian OS, Red Hat OS, Ubuntu, SUSE, Fedora, Windows, even Mac OS, Raspbian, Amazon Linux machine. So for each machine, you have a separate RPM file. Do not take RPM file of Linux machine and copy that in Red Hat and say that it's not working. It will definitely not work. It's definitely the package dependent too. Okay. So you have actually two types of installation. One is Bootstrap. So earlier I taught you only the Bootstrap type of installation, which is simply copying the Bootstrap packages and running. If you want, you also have another method called, is it possible for slave machine? Maybe. Yeah, it's cross-platform dependent. See here also I have my first master is Ubuntu. My first slave machine is Ubuntu. My second slave machine is Linux. My third slave machine is Windows. See, this is a slave machine. I'll install Salt in this machine now. Just copy the package. Just copy the package, go to the machine. When I go for T2.micro, it's always a hell to me. Just copy the URL. It's simple. You would have installed any games or any movies, right? What you'll do from the internet, you will download the exe file of that and you will run the exe file, right? The same thing I'm doing over here. I'm just downloading the exe file and I'm gonna run that exe file. And as I told, Windows machine definitely cannot be a master. It can only be a slave machine. Save. So I'm copying my exe file. So my exe file is getting copied. So in my download, I have my exe setup file to run my install my minion. So definitely master cannot be a Windows machine. So to install a minion, next I agree. So see, while installing itself, he is asking who is my master. Why he is doing this? Because as I told you, definitely Windows machine cannot be a master. He can only be a slave. So that's why while the installing itself, he is asking who is the master. So now just so this machine is the master, right? Installation which I already done. Take the private IP of that machine, salt master, where I already did this master configuration setup. Just copy the private IP 172.31.89.119 master private IP and give it to the machine. Test Windows install. So here, if you want to restart your minion, you need to go to a path called services.msc. In a Linux machine, you just ran a command called sudo service salt minion restart, right? Here, all the background services would be running in services.msc Microsoft. You can go here and check your salt minion services if needed. Yeah, finish. So I'm just going into services.msc and confirming whether my salt minion has been installed. Salt minion, yeah, are you able to see your salt minion is available over here? So now just tell me from master how I can accept him, how I can accept this child. Any guess?
Again, go to the master server again.
So simply type sudo salt key. Are you able to see test Windows?
Yes.
So accept him. Type small a test Windows. Yeah, that's it. So Windows is accepted now. So now sudo salt glob. Glob is the value to execute the command in all the child. So for example, for this mission, I have two child federated. What are the two child are? One is my Ubuntu child mission and another one is my Windows child mission. So in both the mission, I need to execute a command. For that, you can simply give star glob value. So in both the mission, the ping command will happen. So in both the missions, my master will go and execute the operation. From the master, this ping operation will get executed in the Ubuntu mission, also in your Windows mission. In both the missions, the ping operation would happen. So you are able to see the output for both the missions. Are you able to see?
Yes.
Suppose if I terminate this mission, if the mission is stopped or terminated. The mission is down, he will definitely tell you minion is not responding. Minion is not getting you a proper response on this. See? Are you getting error? Minion did not return, not connected. Earlier it got connected because the server was up and running. Now I terminated the mission. I'm getting an error called minion did not return or minion did not respond. Okay. So this is the initial configuration setup, guys. So I hope you just understand this configuration setup. I'll just share you this document too. So please try this configuration setup, because tomorrow we are going to discuss more advanced commands. We are going to do more pushing, more pulling, advanced level of targeting, start writing our own YAML scripting. So all these things we are going to start practicing tomorrow. To do that, you need to understand this initial setup. So what I suggest is study my slides for first 7 slides. It will have more information, and after that try to set up your own servers. Once it's done, we'll just start practicing more and more tomorrow. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
You can raise your voice if you have any doubts, or just practice, and also you can just raise it. Okay? Any doubts, guys? You want to ask me anything, you can just ask me right now.
This is Vijay. I just have one question. So,
sure, you can.
So for the master is handling around 100 servers, right?
Okay.
In future, if it is going to handle 1,000 servers, so what about the load balancing in this case? Just wanted to know.
From your master, he should have the capacity. That's it. So here, load balancer, you're not going to implement any load balancer in between or backend, right?
No, I'm just concerned about whether if the server is increased from 100 to 1,000 or 2,000. Okay. So in that case, will the master can handle those many servers or not?
Yeah, you can. Your master can handle. Only thing is, your master should have more CPU capacity. That's it. For example, in your same machine, if you're trying to like a server and a client setup in your organization, always your server machine, your root hub machine will have more capacity, right, to distribute your CPU the same way. Because from the master, you're gonna do all the execute operation. That's it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, guys. Just try to practice that. We'll reconnect tomorrow and we can discuss more and more on this. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, sir.